help us be the church outside of the church. Not just come to church, but be the church. And the Lord has been aligning things up here. And I wanted my wife to talk quickly about a young girl that we've been sponsoring now for about 18 months. And her name is Rosie, and she's from Honduras. And I'm going to have my wife kind of share a little bit there.
Thank you, Pastor. God bless you. I want to share a verse with you that says in John 13:35, it says, "Your love for one another will prove to the world that you are my disciples." I think as Christians, our foundation is to love other people. We can all attest to that. We say that. We sing about God's love. We've experienced God's love, and we want to love on others. But as Pastor mentioned earlier, it's easy to say it, but to put our money where our mouth is a little difficult. So we had been praying, and we had been talking about doing more. We do outreaches with the church. Some of you are involved in different ministries. Thank you for that. But, when we come to church, this is not where the work is done. The work of the church is, as Pastor was saying, is done outside of these four walls. When we congregate and when we come together as a body, we really are just kind of huddling like football players do and encouraging one another. And then when we go out there is when the real work is done. So we were talking about, missions work and how can we be a blessing to others. I say it because I'm naive, and I tell him, I want to go to other parts of the world. I want to go visit Honduras. I can probably imagine that I don't even know how difficult life is out there, but I want to see. I want to see the world, and I want to experience what it's like to see people living in extreme poverty. I want to be a blessing. So when the opportunity came with Compassion, and we were reading, and they'll give you information right now, but Compassion really is exactly where our heart is. Not only does it meet the physical medical component of the person that you're sponsoring, but it gives them an education. It teaches them to read and to write. It focuses on their social emotional healing, meaning the mental health aspect, allowing them to understand what they're feeling, and more importantly, it allows them to experience Jesus. I want to read to you a letter that my sponsored child or her mom wrote, because she's 5 years old. And when we first started sponsoring her last year, she wrote us a letter, and she wrote, "Dear Ruby, may God bless you and your family greatly. This is Nidia, Rosie's mom. I'm writing you this letter because my little girl cannot write yet. Rosie says she loves you very much and that she is happy that you are her sponsor. Rosie sends you hugs and kisses, and I ask you to pray for the life of Rosie and her family." We don't have to leave the comfort of our home, but you are already doing mission work when you sponsor a child through Compassion. And the transparency that Compassion offers us is a blessing. That we can be a blessing to other people, that we can reach out and we can say, we're praying for you. That we can reach out and say, Jesus loves you, to children on other parts of the world that have no means. They don't have the commodities we have. They don't have the comfort that we have. They don't have what we have. But they know that somebody in America is saying that they love them and that is praying for them and wishing them well. And you get the opportunity, as we have, to send her gifts. I sent her a birthday gift last year, and she bought herself a little Minnie Mouse dress with little heels. And she sent me a picture, and it's just so heartwarming to know that we can be a blessing. Because like Pastor was saying, God has blessed us greatly. Now we can be a blessing to others. So it's just really a privilege to be able to do it.
And, with Compassion, one of the things that really touched our heart when we got to meet Samuel in Orlando, Florida this past March is just their transparency. Ruby talked about that. Pastor Ruby talked about that, the transparency. And they'll share a little bit more with you on what that looks like. And you don't have to, maybe you've desired to go on a medical trip. Maybe you've desired to go into, these third world countries and been a part of a food caravan, or to do something, a little bit more personal. But until that day comes, you can do this, and you can still extend the blessings of God into these impoverished countries. And we want to share with you really quick. I know you had her picture up here, right, with her family. But can you share the video really quick, please? We want to let you see this real quick.
Buenos días, queridos patrocinadores. El día dije, sean bienvenidos a Honduras. Y estoy muy feliz de conocerlos. Y por este tiempo, me agradezco a todos por apoyarme. Los quiero mucho. Y buenos días, gracias, Mónica de la Radio.
Muy buenas tardes, patrocinador de mi hija, Elías y Rubí. Como pueden ver, esta es mi familia. Él es Miguel, mi esposo. Mi hijo Luis, con capacidades especiales. Él sufre de una parálisis cerebral infantil. Y es Rosy Stephanie Cáceres, la niña que ustedes patrocinan. Yo les agradezco mucho. Como pueden ver, ella ha progresado bastante en el programa. Antes era bastante acomplejada, no le gustaba hablar, no le gustaba que le tomaran fotos. Y ha avanzado bastante, ha aprendido mucho. Yo les agradezco por la ayuda que nos han brindado, ¿verdad? Ahorita están las clases así en la casa, por lo del COVID. Y pues ha avanzado bastante la niña. Yo les agradezco mucho.
Amen. Today it's an honor. I'm just gonna have him stand up from where he's at. But first, I wanted to just give a warm Calvary welcome to Samuel Polanco. Samuel, thank you for being here, brother. Samuel, his staff, his wife, we got to meet them, like I said, in Florida, and they were just amazing. And we got to hear his story. His story is impactful. He is a product of compassion himself from the Dominican Republic, and he shared that the first service. And then right now we're gonna have Gerald come up here, and he's gonna speak a little bit as well. But just a little bit of compassion, so you kind of get a little bit of a background. They serve more than 2.3 million children worldwide. They are a Christ-centered and church-based organization. In other words, they use the church, the local church in these areas to bring education and discipleship and all the rest through the church. So that's one thing that really impacted us, was the fact that they're using local churches and local pastors to be able to bring those things into the communities. Another thing is that these children receive more than 400 hours of discipleship a year, which is great. I mean, this is a Christian-based organization, so they're not only getting educated in mathematics and in reading and all that good stuff, they're also being educated in the gospel and instructed in the gospel. And we all know what Proverbs 22:6 says, right? Instruct the child when they're young, so when they're old, they don't depart from it. This is the important thing, right? They're in 25 different countries. They empower the church, like I said. And this is what also just really impacted us, is that they have close to 125,000 new converts to the gospel every year. So I wanted to share that with you. I want to give the place over to Gerald. Gerald, thank you so much. Let's receive him with an applause. Thank you, brother, for your time. And we know that the Lord is going to continue speaking to you. You got Josue
Thank you.
back.
Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
And thank you, Joshua, for being here too.
Sir.
Yeah. Qué bendición es para mí poder estar aquí en esta mañana
It's a blessing for me to be here this morning
y poder compartir con ustedes un poco acerca de mi historia.
and to be able to share with you a bit of my story.
Antes de compartirles un poco acerca de mí,
Before I share a little bit about myself,
quiero decirles que la niña que está siendo patrocinada por los pastores,
I want you to tell that the young girl being sponsored by pastors,
su hermano también tiene unas necesidades especiales.
her sister is also has special needs.
Y a pesar de que el niño no está siendo patrocinado, producto del patrocinio a la niña, esta familia completa está siendo impactada y el niño también está recibiendo beneficios.
And despite that girl not being sponsored, because her sister's being sponsored, the entire family is receiving those benefits.
Y lo digo esto porque quiero que usted sepa que la labor de compasión es impactar a la familia.
And I say this so that you can know that the purpose of compassion is to bless the entire family.
El día de hoy estoy aquí como un ex niño patrocinado de compasión.
Today, I'm here as someone who has been sponsored through compassion.
O sea, un día yo estuve en un paquete de estos
One day, I was on a packet just like this.
y hoy quiero compartir con ustedes un poco acerca de mi historia.
And today, I want to share to you a bit about my story.
Pero lo primero que quiero decirles a ustedes es que Jesús y la iglesia son más poderosas que la pobreza.
The first thing I want to tell you is that Jesus and the church are more powerful than poverty.
Quiero repetir esto de nuevo. Jesús y la iglesia es más poderosa que la pobreza.
I want to repeat this again. Jesus and the church are more powerful than poverty.
Cuando yo tenía 4 años de edad, mi padre abandonó mi hogar.
When I was 4 years old, my father abandoned our family.
Y eso provocó que mi madre tuviera que criar a mi hermano y a mí como madre soltera.
That provoked my mother having to raise me and my brother as a single mother.
Todo comenzó a cambiar en nuestras vidas
Everything began to change in our lives
porque tuvimos que lidiar con extrema pobreza,
because we had to deal with extreme poverty,
sin dinero para comer, dinero para vestir, dinero para transporte, para la escuela.
no money for food, for clothes, or transportation to school.
Pero una de las cosas que más afecta la vida de un niño pobre
But one of the things that most affects the life of a poor
es que
child
no tiene esperanza, no tiene oportunidades en la vida.
is not having hope or opportunities in life.
Y esto fue lo que yo viví en mi niñez.
And this is what I lived in my childhood.
Desafortunadamente crecí en un lugar donde lamentablemente había criminalidad, había delincuencia.
Unfortunately, I was raised in an area with a lot of crime,
Y todo ese conjunto de pobreza
and all of that combined with poverty
solamente me estaba llevando a mí y a mi familia a un solo lugar,
was taking me and my family to one place,
y era a la perdición.
and that was being lost.
No tener a un padre contigo en tu casa es difícil,
Not having a father at home is difficult,
pero es mucho más difícil cuando tú no significas nada para tu padre.
but it's even more difficult when your father does not care about you.
Y hay algo importante que quiero que usted sepa. Como resultado de esto,
And there's something important I want you to know, which is that a result of this is
yo tuve que caminar de lunes a viernes todos los días para ir a mi escuela con mis zapatos rotos.
I had to walk Monday through Friday to school with torn shoes.
Alrededor de casi 35 minutos caminando de cada día.
About 35 minutes every day.
Yo recuerdo momentos que mi madre me decía, hoy tenemos solamente 10 pesos dominicanos
I remember my mother telling me, today we only have 10 Dominican pesos,
y tenemos que decidir entre si lo quieres usar para desayunar o si quieres utilizarlo para llegar hasta la escuela en transporte.
and you have to choose whether you want that for breakfast or for transportation to school.
Recuerdo momentos como que tuve que tocar las puertas de mis vecinos para pedirles botellas vacías de Coca-Cola.
I remember having to knock at my neighbors' doors asking for empty Coca-Cola bottles.
Y entonces tenía que intercambiar esas botellas en la bodega por pan y por leche o chocolate.
And I would have to take them to the market to exchange them for milk and for bread.
Y todo porque no teníamos las finanzas necesarias para nosotros poder subsistir como familia.
All of that because we didn't have the necessary finances to sustain the family.
No tenía una cama donde dormir.
I didn't have a bed to sleep on.
Y tuve que vivir lamentablemente en medio de todas esas situaciones.
And I had to sleep in the midst of all those situations.
Yo recuerdo un momento donde mi padre, yo decidí llamarlo un lunes en la mañana.
I remember calling my father on a Monday morning,
Y le pedí a mi padre que si me podía dar dinero para comer.
and I asked my father if he could give us money so that we could eat.
Y él me pidió ir a un departamento de la policía porque él era policía.
He told me to go to the police department. He was a police.
Cuando llegué a ese lugar, estuve ahí desde las 7 de la mañana hasta las 5 de la tarde,
When I arrived there, I was there from 7 in the morning to 5 in the afternoon.
con apenas unos 11 años de edad,
I was about 11 years old,
esperando a mi padre que nunca llegó.
waiting for a father who never arrived.
Y yo no sé si usted puede imaginarse un niño de 11 años de edad en una estación de policía, esperando por su papá. Ese fue mi caso.
I don't know if you can imagine that, a child being 11 years old waiting for his father only for him to never arrive.
Uno de los compañeros de trabajo de mi padre decide llamarlo y le dice que yo estoy ahí en ese lugar.
One of my father co-workers calls him and tells him that I'm there waiting for him.
Y la respuesta de mi padre simplemente fue una respuesta despectiva, como si a él no le importara, y me dijo que me fuera a mi casa.
And when he responded, it was though as he didn't care and just told me to go home.
Y eso provocó en mí que yo le tomara rencor a mi papá.
That provoked for me to feel remorse and
Yo no
hate
quería
towards him.
saber de mi padre.
I didn't want to know about him.
Y recuerdo que me fui llorando hasta mi casa, me tiré de rodillas
I remember going to my home crying and I threw myself to my knees.
y le pedí a Dios y le dije, Señor, si tú me sacas de esta situación, yo te prometo que te voy a servir por el resto de mi vida.
I asked God and I told him, if you can get me out of this situation, I will serve you for the rest of my
Y
life.
yo quiero que usted sepa que si hoy yo estoy aquí es porque Dios me sacó a mí de la situación en la que yo vivía.
I want you to know that if I'm here today, it's because God took me out of that situation I was in.
Mi madre estaba bien desesperada, ella no sabía qué hacer.
My mother was desperate, she didn't know what to
Y en
do.
medio de todo este proceso apareció un colegio cristiano que estaba conectado con una iglesia.
In the midst of all of this, we found a church that was connected to this.
Y en esta iglesia había un programa de compasión.
And in that church, there was a program from Compassion.
Y ellos decidieron darme un 50% de una beca para poder estudiar
They decided to give me 50% of a scholarship so I could study.
y ponerme en una lista para ver si yo podía ser un niño parte del programa de compasión.
And they put me on a wait list to see if I could become part of Compassion.
Enviaron mi paquete con una foto mía a London, United Kingdom.
They sent a packet with a picture of me to London in United Kingdom.
Y allí en una iglesia,
There in a
un
church.
señor llamado Brian Wilson,
A man named Brian Bilson,
él vio mi paquete y él dijo, yo quiero patrocinar a Gerald Lorenzo de la República Dominicana.
he saw my packet and said, I want to sponsor Gerald Lorenzo from
Y
Dominican
ese
Republic.
fue el día perfecto porque todo comenzó a cambiar en mi vida.
That was the perfect day because that's when everything began to change in my life.
Y esta es la razón por la que todo comenzó a cambiar en mi vida. Yo encontré un lugar que proveía comida para mí,
I found a place that provided food for me,
proveía uniformes, proveía transporte,
provided uniforms, provided transportation,
proveía chequeos médicos.
provided medical care.
Pero lo más importante que pudo proveer a mi vida
But the most important thing it provided to my
fue el
life
Evangelio de Jesucristo.
was the gospel of Jesus.
El Evangelio de Jesucristo.
The gospel of Jesus.
Mi primera cama fue regalada por Compassion cuando yo tenía aproximadamente 12 años de edad.
My first bed was gifted to me at 12 years of age.
Y esa fue la primera vez que yo tuve la oportunidad de decir, estoy en una cama durmiendo.
That was the first time I had the opportunity to say, I'm sleeping on a bed.
Y usted puede ver esta cama y preguntarse, ¿por qué esta foto?
You see this bed and might ask yourself, why this picture?
Cuando ellos fueron a mi casa, vieron que no era solamente yo que estaba durmiendo en el suelo, sino que también mi hermano dormía en el piso.
When they went to my house, they saw that not only was I sleeping on the floor, but I also had a brother sleeping
Y
on
ellos
the floor.
dijeron, vamos a comprar una cama doble y vamos a permitir, Gerald, tú puedes dormir arriba y tu hermano puede dormir en la parte de abajo.
So they said, we'll buy a bunk bed and Gerald, you can sleep on top and your brother can sleep on the bottom.
Aún sin mi hermano estar patrocinado por Compasión.
Even my brother sponsored through Compassion.
Porque la misión de Compasión es impactar a la familia.
The mission of Compassion is to sponsor the family.
Hoy en día mi mamá, mi hermano y yo podemos decir, aceptamos a Jesús a través de Compasión.
Today, my mother, my brother, and I can say that we received Jesus through Compassion.
Mi madre ya es una copastora en una iglesia en la República Dominicana.
My mother's a co-pastor in a church in Dominican Republic.
Mi hermano, él está también trabajando como external host para Compassion en la República Dominicana.
My brother also works through Compassion in the Dominican Republic.
Y nosotros somos un verdadero ejemplo de que patrocinando un niño se puede bendecir a toda una familia.
And we can give the example that when you sponsor a child, the whole family is affected.
Mi patrocinador, Brian Wilson, nunca lo conocí en persona.
I never met my sponsor in person,
Pero hay algo que Compassion tiene que se llama cartas.
but there's something Compassion has, which is called
Así como la
letters,
carta que leyó la pastora.
such as the letter that Pastor Ruby read.
Y sabe que a través de esas cartas yo creé una relación de padre a hijo con mi patrocinador.
Through those letters, I created a father-son relationship with my sponsor.
Y cuando mi padre nunca me llamaba o me escribía para decirme feliz cumpleaños o cómo estás,
And when my father never called or wrote to me to say happy birthday
yo
or
todos
congratulations,
los años estaba recibiendo de mi patrocinador una carta diciendo, hola Gerald, estamos aquí en London, United Kingdom, estamos sentados en la mesa y solo queremos decirte que tú eres especial para nosotros.
I would receive every letter a year from my sponsor saying, Gerald, we're here and we value you and we love you.
Y esas palabras
Those words.
impactaron mi vida
They impacted my life
porque alguien en una iglesia
because someone from a church,
a través de un patrocinio decidió mostrarme el amor de Jesucristo.
through a sponsorship, showed me the love of Jesus.
El día de hoy estoy casado con una hermosa mujer de la República Dominicana.
Today I'm married with a beautiful woman from Dominican Republic.
Tenemos dos niñas, una de 3 años de edad y una de 5 meses.
We have 2 daughters, one 3 years old, the other 5 months old.
Y hoy por hoy yo gracias a que un día alguien decidió patrocinarme
And today I can say that because one day somebody decided to sponsor me
y mostrarme el amor de Jesucristo,
and show me the love of Jesus,
yo no voy a repetir la misma historia que yo viví con mi padre.
I will not repeat the same story I lived through with my father.
Una de mis metas es ser un buen padre,
One of my goals is to be a good father,
pero también ser un buen esposo.
but also be a good husband.
Gracias a Compassion tengo un bachelor's degree en administración de empresas,
Thanks to Compassion, I have a bachelor's in business administration
una cual podemos alcanzar.
and helping the Hispanic community.